During the Second World War, over 700,000 Canadians joined the Canadian Army to fight overseas. An often overlooked part of their military career is the training they received in Canada prior to their departure. Those who provided this training played a crucial role in the war effort.
I am Murray Edwards, and I was born in England in 1920 while my dad was in service in World War I. I grew up in New Jersey, which had been his home after he left Nova Scotia, and I grew up until the war came along, Pearl Harbor, and my two brothers who were American-born went into the American service, and I did as my dad did in the First World War, took the train to Toronto, and I joined the Queen's Own Rifles. We did our initial training at Niagara-on-the-Lake, and we'd been training for about 6 weeks, and our company commander always reviewed the day's training, and then he would review what we were going to do the next day. And in this case, he said, "Tomorrow we have a lesson on how to darn socks. Anyone here know how to darn socks?" Well, nobody else put their hand up, but I'd seen my mother do it often enough, and I put my hand up. I gave the lecture. I didn't have a mushroom like my mother, so I boiled an egg for about 10 minutes and used that. What I didn't realize was that it immediately marked me as a potential instructor. And that was the factor that changed my complete career during the war. When I arrived in England, I was on draft with 92 of my compatriots from the battalion going as a reinforcement to our 1st Battalion. And at the last minute, I was removed from the draft and posted to an officer refresher school that was just being set up as a junior instructor. The problem was that officers arriving in England were very poorly trained, and the refresher school was intended to bring them up to the standard they should have had back in Canada. The problem back in Canada was that so many of the training establishments were commanded by World War I officers who were not up to the standards and the training of 1939 as required.
Murray Edwards went on to train over 1,000 officers in England and in Canada. Though the Army's manuals covered all aspects of training, it was up to the instructors to interpret their content. For trainers, it was essential that soldiers be trained to face anything that they could encounter in action. However, being completely detached from the front created mixed feelings for some instructors.
When it came to training the officers and then sending them off to combat, left you with a very mixed feeling. One, the fact that you were sending them off to face the enemy, you were still safe back in Canada. On the other hand, you also wondered, have I done the best possible preparation to make sure that they survive in action? And oftentimes, you get quite close to even though it was only 5 weeks, and later you'd hear this one was wounded, or that one was killed, and that brought home to you what your responsibility really was. One point that I have said to myself, someone's got to do this job. They think that I've got the potential to do that job, and if that's the case, then it's up to me to do the best possible job. And I've always thought that all the students that I had, that they had my confidence and that they left as well prepared as they possibly could be. After the war, I was walking down a street in Toronto one occasion, and a chap came up to me and he said, "You won't remember me." And I said, "Yes, I do. I can't remember your name, but I remember your face." He said, "I went all through Italy, and then," he said, "switched to Germany." He said, "When my friends and myself look back, we met exactly what your major said. We never suffered more than we did on that training course." I finally felt that perhaps my role had been vindicated. When I look back and examine my role during the war, it's my hope that what I did do really made an impression on my students, one that they carried over into their action and into their lives.